Welcome to the Women Empowerment Podcast, where we firmly believe we rise by lifting others. The Women Empowerment Podcast is a platform for women to share their personal stories and experiences, trials and triumphs, to have their voices heard, to promote, inspire, and motivate other women. We want to share the journey of women leaders and entrepreneurs from all industries and sectors who've made an outstanding impact in our society, all while empowering others to do the same. The Women Empowerment Awards Gala is being held on September 13th, 2024. Enjoy an evening with over 250 highly influential, inspiring individuals. Visit our website, www.woea.ca, for more information. Let's celebrate women empowerment together. Enjoy the podcast. Hello, everybody. I am super excited to jump right into this podcast with the beautiful Rebecca Schoenhardt. She is here. She is my guest, and she is about to give us the full scoop on her fabulous journey. So go ahead, Rebecca. Let everybody know all of the great things that you have going on right now.
Oh, Miss Ellie, that is very kind. Thank you very much. Just how to pump my tires. So I am really excited to be part of Canadian Western Bank.
Mhm.
And Canadian Western is just in the process of expanding further into Ontario and opening up a brand new banking center in Waterloo region, housed in Kitchener. And it's so exciting and a personal thrill to be leading that. So it's the closest thing you get to be to an entrepreneur and business owner within the Canadian financial services and banking landscape. So that's an absolute thrill. And I wouldn't want to be doing it with any other institution than CWB because there's such a strong alignment of values and outlook.
And of course, it suits you perfectly, this role, because I mean, it comes after many years with another financial institution where you held progressive senior roles in wealth management. So why don't you talk to us, bring us back to the
Yeah.
beginning, talk to us about all of, how this all came about.
I joke that I started my banking career like everyone does as a professional horseback rider. So I did an undergrad in human kinetics, a Bachelor of Science, completely unrelated to commerce. And while I was doing that, I was competing at an international standard in the equestrian sport of dressage. And
Mm,
I won a scholarship or two associated with the Canadian Olympic Committee because of how I was doing in the sport. And I used those monies after my undergrad to take my horse and I to Germany, where I lived for a year and a half. And
wow.
so I was a rider first, and I debuted the Grand Prix there. I got to compete in a couple of different countries, and it was on a personal basis, a hugely broadening journey to for this country bumpkin to live in a different language and culture and experience the beauties and wonder of different architecture and history and foods and culture and language. It was a wonderful experience.
Mhm.
And I love horses and I love riding and I love dressage. And so when my time in Germany came to an end, I came home and didn't know what I was going to be when I grew up. So I hung a shingle. I'll teach riding lessons and I'll train horses. And so that's what I did. And I
Mhm.
always say for about a decade because I'm never sure, do you count Germany or not? But
Gotta
my
count it, of course. Gotta count it.
so I became a owner operator and started my own business as a trainer. So we'll count Germany, even though that was more revenue using than revenue producing.
Mhm.
Bankers, you see, we love sources and uses of funds. So it was a use of funds. I came home and used it then as a source of funds. And I was training people how to ride better and compete better on their horses. I was training their horses to higher levels. I was helping people buy and sell horses. I was on the board of directors for the sport of dressage for a time. I was helping set the standards for our Olympic or World Cup teams or World Equestrian Games teams. And I also continue to be a judge in the sport of dressage. So I was really a full time committed equestrian. But I came to a place after about 10 years where I thought maybe there's another way. A bad day at the office risks another concussion, a spinal injury.
Mhm.
There's some real challenges with health and safety. There's some real challenges with financial security. My earnings, my savings account was dependent upon the weather or
Yeah.
if a horse keeps a horseshoe on, like literally. So so I thought there's got to be another way. And I had you always often when things are feeling yucky, you think about all the things you don't have. But
Mhm.
I really tried to, and it took some time to get there, but to think about what are those things that I do have? How can I approach this from a place of abundance? And what I had was an incredible roster of mainly women, but clients, and how great that they were women, that these folks had the financial wherewithal as well as the time that they could ride.
Mhm.
And I was thinking, what are you doing? Like, tell me about this. What's your job look like? What does a good day look like? What does a bad day look like? What are the skills you're needing in the future? Where do you see this progressing in terms of opportunities and challenges? And through that, I became really curious about accounting, about
Mm.
law, and about something that they do on Bay Street. I don't know, it's financial services, don't really know. And so I then started to take the next level down. Okay, so what does the schooling look like for each of these branches? And then beyond schooling, what does that look like in terms of entrenching into a career? And so I was looking for a world where I could compete on equal footing as a woman.
Right.
And when you look at some of the unfortunate statistics, the Globe and Mail did a great big expose on it in the last year and a half or so. Women in law or in some of those power by the hour consulting, accounting, law can often unfortunately be challenged, and it doesn't appear based on the stats to be an equal competitive footing. I also didn't want to do an apprenticeship again. I was starting my life again in my 30s, so I went back to do an MBA, and I loved finance. I found I love math. I love economics. And so it was really fun to be able to have a program that spoke to some of those passions.
Right.
I did really well in my studies. And one of the big Canadian banks came calling based on my grades and a really crazy resume. This gal's a horseback rider. We got to talk to her.
Right.
That's crazy. And so they recruited me to a rotational program in their wealth management shop. And and again, I mean, I was terrified. Like I'd never worked on Bay Street. I'd kept up the networking every Friday. I'd go downtown and from my horseback riding clients, who do you know? Who can I speak to? I narrowed down sort of which was my banks of choice and in what roles, because it's a world there. I joined women in capital markets to learn more. I did all sorts of stuff to better educate myself. But I also had seldom worked in an office, let alone worn makeup. I mean, I'd read textbooks on how does a woman apply lipstick? I don't know. I work at a barn, right? So there it was a big change. And so it was comforting to me that I was going to target a rotational program so that I didn't have to choose exactly one place yet. I got to sort of do institutional speed dating to find the right place for me. And
Right.
so in the wealth management program, I had time in strategy, in asset management, structuring mutual funds, for instance, in offshore trust and structuring of wealth holdings, as well as credit. And I was concurrently with that, I was pursuing a CFA charter status, which is a financial analysis designation. And so I loved the client touching component of credit plus the financial analysis. It was kind of a really neat marriage of challenges. Also looking at, as you're structuring a credit document, it's a little bit of law. So it brings back that curiosity of law school. So it kind of touched all these different curiosities and passions of mine. And so I focused on that, joined the group that serves our billionaires in Canada and internationally, and then got a little bored. I thought, oh God, the coolest job in the bank. How can I get bored? And so I did the same thing I did as a horseback rider. You talk to people and really successful women who you admire, and you're like, what's a good day look like? What's a bad day look like? What are the skills that are needed for the future? And thinking about what do I have and what do I want to learn? And I realized where I wanted to go next was commercial banking because it took
Mm.
that client engagement piece that I love, but maybe a little bit more immediately relatable to my circumstance in life in
Mm.
commercial banking than in ultra high net worth. So I led a team doing that. I then was here in Waterloo Region. I was brought back to Toronto to work in strategy and then had this opportunity come up with Canadian Western Bank and jumped in because it's so cool. Like I said, to start up a brand new banking center, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity and it's incredibly fun and challenging, but it's a great ride.
Honestly, it obviously suits you perfectly because look at the transition and how you were able to pivot from one avenue to the next to the next. And I just love how, you know what? I feel the same way. Sometimes you get into something, you're doing something for a little while, and then it becomes a little bit redundant. You love it, but you want to change. You want something challenging. So you just keep upping it and upping it and upping it. Good for you, Rebecca. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So talk to us as like a young lady. Where did you see yourself? What did you see yourself doing?
Oh, I was going to be a veterinarian, quite
Oh,
obviously.
really?
I loved animals, loved riding, and I wanted a career that could allow me to really make that the center of my life.
Yeah.
And then as I started going through post-secondary, I realized, wait a second, like I've got okay marks, but I'm going to need to bump it up a notch in order to get into veterinary school.
Yeah.
And so that means not riding. And I was competing quite a lot at that level at that time. And then once I'm starting a new practice, well, I'm going to have to not ride so much to really invest my time and resource into practice. And I looked at this and I thought, my goodness, like I'm going to spend a lot of my time and energy over the next 15 or 20 years looking after other people's horses instead of spending time with my own. So maybe there's another way. Then became that horseback rider. And then again, I think as you age, your definition of success and those aspirations and goals can evolve over time. And I realized I was looking for more stability, both health and safety and otherwise. And so now I'm a banker.
I love it. I love how you just you are serious about your passion. You're serious about what you love. And it's refreshing to hear, especially as a woman. You're not going to let anything stand in your way. You're going to go for what you want and you're going to capture it. That's fabulous. So talk to us a little bit about what is your favorite part of the job? Like what really lights you up?
Oh, it's the people. And this is why there's a really good fit with
Hmm.
CWB, Canadian Western Bank. So for me, you know, it's the people that I get to work with. So my team members, helping them grow and be super successful and hit their own personal definitions of success, and helping them grow into new roles and new capabilities. Like that's a delight. And even just getting together as a team and some of the banter and fun, like hands down, awesome. But the other thing that I love is the clients on the people side. And, walking a shop floor with an entrepreneur and hearing his or her story of how this came to be and how they've grown it and some of the chances that they've taken that have paid off or the chances that didn't pay off, and seeing and witnessing that passion they have for their teams and their output and the growth and the forward view of their company, like that is completely captivating. So
Yeah.
it really is, it's the people side of things. And it's honestly, and I know it sounds like a plug, but when I was looking and learning more about CWB, they talk about it's people first is one of their key values. They talk about how relationships matter, and I think this really speaks to my person. So it's a joy. Not only do I get to do a job that touches some of those passions of mine and those definitions of success, but within a company who shares those same values.
That's phenomenal. And I could tell that that is your passion because as soon as we connected, it was instantly like, hold on, let me give her a call. Let's see if we can hook up for dinner, right? Let's
Exactly.
see if we can get together and chat it up. And we had a good conversation, the first time that we spoke. And I'm telling you, you can feel that instant connection. You just feel the authenticity. So you can see, and I love to hear it, that customer appreciation, that relationship building piece that you have. So I totally agree with that. Like, talk to us a little bit about being a woman in finance. Like,
Yeah.
what does that mean to you?
As I get older, it means more and more. So again, my sporting roots, there's no gender difference. You have
Right.
men and women on the same podium and sharing the same competitive on male and female horses, like it's all the same competitive landscape. And I grew up with brothers, only girl in the family other than my mom. So I'm very comfortable in that milieu. Uh, but it only started to drive home after a business trip. I had to go to New York, Manhattan, to meet with some folks. And I realized at the end of 3 days, I counted, we'd met with something like it was 38 or 39 different people, my
Mhm.
boss and I. And through those 3 days or two and a half, I was the only woman ever at the table.
So hold on, how did that make you feel?
Well, I mean, I was fine. Again, I think horses, you got to have a bit of confidence and physical wherewithal to work with horses. I'm grateful for that education, but it
Yeah.
was a kick in the guts. I mean, in the moment, you're ready. You're going into a great meeting. You're going to help wow this client. You're going to really listen carefully to their needs and understand their secondary and tertiary needs, and ask those open-ended questions and watch the body language. Like you're in the moment. And it was only literally sitting at the airport, at LaGuardia, waiting for my plane. And it was a kick in the guts when I kind of, added up and went, oh my God. And all of these people have something in common and I don't. And then it made sense, where there was a little bit of a surprise upon meeting me. So as I've gotten older, it's become more and more evident to me that visibility matters.
Right.
So, when I was recruiting team members to join me at CWB, I had a very teary night one time after meeting with this great candidate, like just stellar,
Mhm.
and she's like a little powerhouse of energy. And I say little, she's not. And when this person explained to me that how inspiring it was to see a woman in commercial banking, and I thought, well, that's odd. Tell me more. And she explained how every manager above her, up to the
Mhm.
CEO, and we're talking 8 or 9 levels deep, was a white male. Not only
Yeah.
a white male, but like white male over 5'10". And that visibility, the fact that that's what she found inspiring made me so sad. Like this has got to change. We need greater representation. This shouldn't be unusual.
Right.
And so that's where I say it's more, I guess, more of a feminist leaning. As I get age, I realize the importance of that, to have the role models and visibility.
Well, you are a powerhouse. You definitely are an inspiration to many as a leading woman in finance. So what does woman empowerment mean to you? Because that right there, that conversation that you must have had with her, and that teary night must have made you feel like you are empowering women out here, and you are. So what does that term kind of?
Empowerment, I feel like it's similar to the word, agency. That how do we give women agency, whether they're on your team or a peer or a mentor or higher up? How do we enable them and embolden them to create those goals and then have the wherewithal to make decisions and take actions in order to achieve those goals? And so visibility is part of it, mentorship is part of it, sponsorship and encouragement, demonstrating the path forward. These are all ways, I think, to support women empowerment.
Right, right. And so, of course, we're here because of the Women Empowerment Awards. So talk to us, bring us back to, how you got involved with the Women Empowerment Awards and what this phenomenal night of excellence means to you.
Well, I mean, I admit this is a big, humbling honor, and you can't tell, but my palms are sweaty. I'm a little nervous to represent in this way. So Canadian Western Bank is actually a key sponsor of the Women Empowerment Awards. And when I've gone through and learned more about the organization, I get more nervous because I realize the very large shoes that I'm trying to fill. And I look at the level of recognition, the support, but also the fanfare.
Mhm.
I'm really looking forward to the awards this fall because everything I'm reading suggests the power and the energy in the room is it's going to be a pretty big hit.
Yeah, well, you're definitely not trying to fill those shoes. You are filling the shoes. So we look forward to the sponsorship, of course, and having you there at the event, showing up and showing out for CWV. Awesome. Um, what do you, I know that you mentioned your definition of success has kind of changed throughout the years, which it should as you continue to climb the ladder of success. But what does that actually mean to you? What does the word success mean?
So there's a Tolstoy quote, the author, right? It's something like, there's as many minds as there are heads. And I think the same thing about success. There's as many definitions of success as there are people.
100%.
And even that definition of success changes over time. And I think, for some it is a ladder. For some, it's a sense of peace or fulfillment or community impact. I think there's a lot of different metaphors, right? As many as there are definitions. So for me, where I am in my career, it's how do I want to feel at the end of the day? How do I want others to help others around me to feel? How do I want to grow and have a scorecard to collectively that the team can kill it?
Mm,
And those are measures of success. But it's also, I'm going to yoga class tonight. It's also being able to do that and take care of myself. I would say those are some measures of success that have shifted over time. For some, it's income. For some, it's title or prestige or power. For some, it's just like, dude, I want to show up at 9 and leave at 5, and never, not 5:01, and that is success. But a mentor of mine at my former FI taught me that, and I have great respect for him. And all of those definitions are good.
right.
I mean, like they're great. If
Mhm.
we all had the same definition, it'd be a pretty darn boring place.
Right? You have to be different, but I love that. Success definitely means something different to every single person. And I just love the way your definition of success has changed, and it will probably continue to grow as you grow as well, right?
Mhm.
So important. So, what motivates you?
I like to do hard things. I like a challenge.
Like a challenge.
I like a challenge. I like to have, a big goal that like, woof, you feel a little nervous about it and you got to
Yeah.
show up and you got to learn. And even if you know, proverbially fall off the horse, or in my previous career, literally, you get back on and it's going to make you a better rider,
Right.
or a better banker. And so I think it's those things. I like a big challenge. I
Mhm.
like to I feel called to leadership. It's not even a like anymore. It feels like a necessary part of what I want to do in this world is help people grow and develop in their careers or their chosen field. And so I yeah, let's say that.
So, my big question here is, are you still writing?
No, seldom.
No, seldom.
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 I'm still very active as a judge, and in fact, I'm judging this coming weekend, up the road,
Nice.
on Saturday and Sunday. Uh, you know, riding was everything to me in my teens and 20s. And at that time, the definition of success, clear as like I wanted to be an Olympian. That was it. If Olympics or nothing.
Yeah.
And with that comes a very narrow focus. But by choosing that path, you're also choosing not to explore other things. And so when I reflect back, actually, time spent in Germany was a real eye opener about other ways to live, about a passion that I've developed for art and architecture, classical music and opera. I started, I've it granted a real unknown wish of exploration that I was able to further exact in my last with my last employer. So I've lived and worked in Manhattan and Cayman Islands and London, England, and Kitchener
Wow.
Waterloo and downtown Toronto, and in each of those places been able to explore new hobbies. In Cayman, it was the outdoor swim team. And in London, it was a half marathon. In New York, it was weightlifting. And here it's golf in a mad way.
Really?
And so it's also, by choosing not to ride, I've been able to
Right.
expand, make room in my leisure time for all these other joys.
Yeah. And so I guess what was like the most memorable thing? Was Germany your first adventure outside of home, pretty much?
I mean, I, you know, visited grandparents when they were in Florida for the winter,
Right.
but I don't recall ever being transatlantic.
Yeah.
So it was my first big trip. Certainly my first time on a plane on my own.
Yeah. That must have been amazing. A great experience, eh?
It was terrifying and devastating and wonderful and so deepening. And I wouldn't have traded, like, I'd do it again in a heartbeat.
100%.
Even the pangs of homesickness and the not being able to ask for directions because I don't speak German at the time, like all of that,
Yeah.
wonderful and big.
Did it take you a while to learn German?
Yeah, some, and I like to. It's kind of fun. I pride myself on academics, and I love to learn new things, but particularly love words and literature and speeches. And yet, I'm completely illiterate in German.
That's okay. I'm sure you got a couple of words you can say, right?
Not on a publicly made podcast.
Don't worry, I'm not gonna put you on the spot. I'm not gonna put you on the spot. So, what's one piece of advice though that you would leave with any woman out here who is looking to get into that financial industry, who's looking to climb the ladder, and what would you say to her?
The first is more general for young women coming into new careers. It's to be a little gentler on yourself. There's no, don't sweat it. There's more than one right decision to be made, and
Right.
very few decisions are permanent and cannot be subsequently unmade or redirected. So, just take it down a notch.
Yeah.
You'll, exhale through this a little bit.
Yeah.
But for women in finance in particular, I think about the importance of soft skills
Hmm.
and the importance of curiosity, of real engagement. And that if all I have to offer is math, I will be replaced by a computer. But if
Mm.
I can offer advice and quiet listening and understanding the subtext beyond what's said and being able to pursue that, and that's a fulfilling engagement for you as the advisor, and but also I think offers a bit of a value moat around what you're creating for clients. So it's and often we say, oh yes, soft skills, huh, who cares? Really, I just want this degree, or I want to do whatever designation it is, or more technical output. But I think it's the EQ, that emotional intelligence, that is really the differentiator.
I love that soft skills. So important to have. So you get the last word. Would you like to leave any special message with any woman out there or any gentleman that may be listening to the podcast?
For women, it's be brave. Think about how your dearest friend or a parent or a loved one would advocate on your behalf, and try to be that your own friend when it comes to places for advocacy. And for all genders listening, the value and joy and greater heights to which we can rise by having a full embracing of diversity and inclusion and helping everyone to feel a sense of belonging in the workplace or the volunteer committee or in the yoga class, whatever it is. I think that there's a joy and an enrichment which comes for all parties by extending that.
Well, thank you so much, Rebecca. I look forward. We definitely have to hook up. We're gonna take
Yes,
some
we're
dinner.
gonna have
We're
dinner.
gonna have dinner, right? And we're gonna figure it out. We'll be able to continue this conversation. But thank you so much. I appreciate you jumping on with me to have this conversation. And of course, we all look forward to seeing you in the flesh at the awards coming up in September.
I look forward to cheering on all those incredible candidates that have been nominated. It's a terrific organization, and I thank you for inviting me to participate in this way.
Thank you. All right. Well, take care and we'll see you soon.
Cheers.